Before you judge the homeless, ask yourself, if I were in their position, how would I want to be treated? This is the dialogue session. My name is Thomas Mwale. The sound of children on the street, playing cards, locally known as njuga, gambling whatsoever they make through begging under the Manda Hill footbridge in Lusaka, the capital city of Zambia. Thus, the problem on children living on the streets is not just limited to the capital city, but in other towns as well. There are hundreds of children running away from their homes and living on the streets. They knock on the windows of vehicles in traffic and signaling their hunger with plastic bottles placed against their noses, sniffing away at jenkem to get rid of hunger and maybe other hidden pains. But what do we know about them? And does society even grant them a chance to see how they can be helped? While living on the streets, these children are faced with many dangers. Many are subjected to extreme poverty and become victims of drug abuse, exploitation, and dangerous labor conditions such as sex. Often stigmatized, street children do not have a good reputation in Zambia. Living on the shadows of the street, we meet Isaac Ngosa, a 15-year-old boy who explains to us what led him to join Streetism.
2017 until now, I'm just living down on the street. Look out for us.
So what intention is to get them?
Nabo sakiro nyambisa school wene.
So ndishina lengeza Zambia.
Ndashina lengeza. Nchamanage.
So kucheka 2017 mpaka lero ilikuwa ni live bana.
Live. Inakosa live ya bamanja pa inakosa. Inakosa. Kama ningi inakosa.
So vindu voipa vino wa facing ako peno nkala pana mchikira 2017 mpaka lero ngapanya.
Bena facing. Bantu wewe kufanya mbili. Wamenetiangana. Wamenetiangana ni babili. Inango banachoko mumenya anamwarira.
So tusera ko your problem ni chukuru cha mnema facing a change mavuta pano pa street mchapwani. Mtima vakudia ni mankalira che masavaiva pwani.
Masafai pamoja tukaenda paso tukamopemba so pasa ndra matukula kwa kuja tena ngapa pasa kwa kuja ndio survive la zo shabu.
So na advise ya bwanja mnonga pasa kwa mfana mzako mnamvera soka akwati angafuno boss pesa Pacific mana ona shitra experience we life Pacific ngashitoka advise mu mbra Pacific
awe singamusadvise kubwera pano pa street because ovamene vitsitsika ndivoipa singamulete pano ingamuleta pano chimodzimodzi namunongera life yake yonse ndechinthu chikulu mu life nkondana chinthu chikulu mu life nkondana futi maningi.
So maparents wako varipo choka kuno maendo vaona romankala chekwameneko
sapanganza sekwendo vaona panga chakidako chenango ili yonse chenzana ningando vaona.
So futhi chinango chechinangisa kubwera pa street ni stance chekubonja maparents in terms of status ili chemchini status chikabwino bwino che so kapena wangala wamana wangatandize twice better ngabwerere kubonja na monkala kunzira kwacheka school nangareko it can be better school unaikira mgechi
naikira mgechi 6
ukapanga pa school
Pamoyo's primary school private maafa yanavuta che kapena ni majealous ku vantu sinziva pemamberera jealous sinziva kare vanadhabwa nandopinzira pa government nanda pa private so kapena ni majealous kapena nzatana sinziva bwinobwino so parivi mfuna nzivepo che chimozi ngani msana nibirira che jealous che hatuchitifuna ngari pa private mwana watu ali pa government sinziva chinthu chikulu maningi so kapena ni majealous nangu chenzatana chenzivepo che chimozi life ndavane ndopinzira sikulu wabwino nzoenda che bwinobwino but futhi vantu ni vamajealous.
There are many ways through which these children find themselves on the streets. Some run away from their homes because of poverty, and others do it because of mistreatment by their relatives. So they have no choice but to leave home to escape such treatment. And Abraham Tembo, aged 18 years, is an example of such treatment. He explains how being an orphan resulted him to streetism.
Ningopunzira maparents ananisiya wanafuma hizi mbona mzimai anafa 2017 so wachibululu mnaona sala sponsors anapezwa palibe so wamenansunga futhi westa munga wansunga munga veni kwansi munga veni zosino kuma parents olo futhi nsakira ofutoni peleka che ku school
so my family members jamani anapoyana salam family mako chanche chechewenzo chikachechina inside school tukwere pano
school nafika basement yako mangao nikachukapo nikabwira mangao kumazuru kai ndinekapenti nikabwira hapo ngabwira kumazuru nifika basement mangao ambonitana vakuja sinziyo chikulu chamnonzondera maiziwa kama nisitamangala na wantu wameswala bro amzimai but nzodabwa nodabwa life mine ambonitana manga vakuja tensana sona bomba chama nisio pa street niko ntandizi maiziwa deveneze
ni life ya banjeleri pana
nisa ko kuidonsa beni donsera ko ni famina apa ngaendera ko palodi na pempa ko anpasa ko naita ko enjoy najao kansima anpasa ko nsima niona idonse kako tabaiti na shota cheni sponsor che wako school chende tabaiti na shota ndio cheni shotela hapo chi mangala ipa kuja ndonsa ko chipa ngono pangono sometimes ngapana palipo sona npase kuna gona nao ndari ko beta manga veni donsera ndio manga veni zo donsera ko kunyumba sasa donsa manga mu
so pano magona kutime
so ni magona mu kwa fa big mamene ndio ni magona mamene went from baby mamene
so my problem is yakuru kuona kwa yari pano pa street ni hapo kuli Ma problems ya kule no facing hapo kwa
Maka ulumanzi yakaloka stipezi kati stigona mushe chenchano vambi vevi mapita usiku wakamba vako ati oloyo uyo upa chenchano pa street singakambe cholo mpa mushe pana musuwa che sponsor che even ngakamba
school unawekera migration
nekera grade 8
ya bwanja mnonga fume
ikulu chepa skulu chene veni ngafune chokubwera cheku skulu aonsakira kona chikokuwa olumanganzinkala wakamba oluna bulo nangwa menina wakamba na auta ndisetamo musula onterikana ku skulu mbere mushe venele venifuna change ku skulu chena kaenjoy akwa ku skulu kaili amenzo ikila konzeru manyingi ni mizimani ya ku skulu amene so puna nabwa baluwana luwana.
Streetism is a social problem which has exposed the breakdown of extended families. For most people now, prefer to take care of themselves, excluding distant relatives, which is much cheaper. It is truly a wonder how changing social values and traditions have impacted children so negatively. And Stanley Mwengwe best relates with this story. So wezongala kuchukwana.
Akshingoda.
Sasa kwa waishirishan.
Waishirina banani mkitwe. Twasha mkitwe. Masa mbona train kusaka. Asa train. Nafika mkitwe na train mkitwe. Asa na kusaka.
Uko tama hizi yangu.
Ni 16.
Ma problem jasha ne wa facing ina
kunganda.
Kunganda ya regisho ku wise ku.
Naga na badadzi. Badaka kama badeze na mai bandi. Wa separate. Aba mai bandi wa kitu badeze na o mai bandi ne ba kuna kan. Shingoda. Badeze wa kitu na shoko badadzi. Omba a step mother wa demfua. Bayan shi step mother. Fa ma shi tukana musu mukitwe. Na train asa kusaka
so na life ya chani wa ikala kuna
life dawe me
so survival la station survival to fioli kula shan
kudomba imba sangana wadala ko wadio fia ko jona bana no join na ko ajako ndio fia ko yanga mpoka fia kuja walomba ko bakupera ko fia kuja ko in.
But in as much as we would want to pinpoint the breakdown of extended families as a major contributor to streetism, some children have themselves to blame. So nwanza kwa nakuleta unapo acheweka kwa?
Nikamzanga kana nileta nani unaziwako na mbono bwela.
So hivi pokuleta kuna namba kuza tilibanji life kana pa street?
Sana noze po vili vonzi. Muna mu street munu saka nabwera mu 2019 but kito kone zonka nabwera mu street 2017.
So chinalingisa chikuru tu amungala life pa street sana.
Ine chinalingisa chikuru kuti ngazi yamo ngara mu street. Group influence zangu kupezeka na banzanga wewe wando pezeka mtawa.
So kutoka ku kito kubera kuna nabwera na train. Then kono nafika kono chanchi sinapo cha stick wanakula njira pani wakege
apenda bola kuno barampokera chemu cha bagai but pa street povuta pa street
na problem za banya na ofisi na pa street
ma problem na ofisi na pa street kodi upaiwa then kodi na madrag yote sevenze za pa street na hivi hatu ononga na pomarod petwe mpandrama stuzi wa vinga titike ni vanga kupaza mastanis vanga kutevili vonzi vanga funa kusebenza kulinda na maza kupaza nga wapase koche atbati akutia siwanga osati wakabwere pa street ni po wipa cause vetika pa street ni vintu vambiri so ni wapaza kuche advise ata vanga nkale che kunyumba kuli magolo ya kwe vangala osati wakabwere mu street because mu street mwaipa these days.
We all know that children are the future, but is this how the future generation deserves to live? On the street, without parental guidance and above all without love? Obviously we all know that it takes the entire village to raise a child. But is this still happening? Is this still happening? And what is it that the society has learned on the plight of children living on the streets?
Ile chamene naona poverty. Sikuti vana vari mu street muni vana vakuti kapena ni vana vanshiwa chabe mai vake vanafa ena watatu vake vanata mai vake kapena vikwati vinasira but ni chamene naona poverty vena vana vamatumiwa chabe kumakoro vavo vavatuma chabe so enda mu street ukazipempa ndrama akafika mja mu street kambo pempa ndrama. Solution ya mene vangachite wa government munga mukuyangana kwanga ine wafunika first kusakira vana baza kuona management yao ya mene bali nayo kuti bali management yapo anje ngati ni baza kuti vana vangakwanise kuwapereka ko maybe ma schools ya wakati bangono vanga wapereka baje amene vaona kuti tungakwanise kusebenza batupereka ko national service so kuja national service kujani bali mabaja nge solution kama nani wana kwa sababu wasati kutama ngatabe kuwapisha tabe kai bazawapisha wewe wakawapisha bazaenda kulipo kama bazaenda so kama basa wewe ambao basakirire ko wapereka babasakirire na changu chini
sometimes zapeze kata mai bake ni wachakolwa atate bake ni wachakolwa so manje uja mwana wakambara so cha bazakula uja mwana mai bake wapeze kati bacherera badi mva atate bawe nawe bacherera badi mva uja mwana azafuna kudya azafuna kusamba azakumbwira che kubanzake maonaka majawazake wazamba kuja to kudya basi bali chenkeza so cha sala kwa mwana ni kunyamuka tikuti niendeko chani niraundeko kwa so nizapeza ko aindopeza wanzake manje aindopeza wanzake kuti bambo chitabwandi bape mabosi na even ku join kangi alibewo mkontrol
echo ningaranira kofe chako bati pali abana banshikwa bafure bakwata bafaya ko means yako bati bali basungiramo bantu abana bali chula sana iringishire ngaba ture kwata namba kwe bati bali aba ile kulira ko mucharo chesu cha Zambia mulando wakwe bati abana abafyashi babo abafyera bali fwa then bara abashara bali balorekeshapo baba kwati filefyu mabasha abafyashi babo abashiburu babo barafo gaining a wealth ulichiriya ichuma abafyashi babo basha as a result balesa ngokwe bati tabali kwata support tabali kwata indara masha kulipira ku skulu kushita ifya kulya mayanda kulashita enjoy same life yo bali chita enjoy time abafyashi
tikaramba vekuchita encourage abaiche abakubasunga babika apa kuikala uchirati valelulumba vyapine vavekata vavasenda apa kuikala ni apa ivyakulya valevapera valevasambisha na maskulu nisha vache vavo vakontroka notiswe valenda ukaso valeupana pilapine muyavune mazi ati mwiso mwine mwangalongo techisumao.
Among the 4 principles of the United Nations Convention on Children's Rights stands the right of a child to survival, protection, and education. According to a study conducted by the Ministry of Youth, Sport and Child Development in 2006, it was discovered that Zambia had 13,500 children living on the street, with the head count of Lusaka at 9,000. And the total number comprised of 75% which were boys and 25 were girls. The Media Network on Children's Rights, MNCR, through the founder and director of the association, Mr. Henry Kabwe, expresses concern on the plight of children living on the streets.
It's very unfortunate that children on the streets keep increasing in our nation. Some of them have lived on the streets for longer than 20 years and have even started families from there. So we have children on the streets, creating families of children on the streets. This vicious cycle will be difficult to break if we don't take drastic measures to ensure that children are kept away from the street. First of all, we should come up with interventions that will prevent other children from getting on the street. And secondly, we need to support the Ministry of Sport, Youth and Child Development to come up with mechanisms to get these children off the street and ensure that they get connected to opportunities that can enhance their livelihoods. And strategically, we need to approach it in such a way that we give them opportunities for skills that may respond to some of the things they've been doing on the streets, like car washing, security and things like that. There is need for the Ministry of Sport and Youth and Child Development to get more support from the Treasury so that we channel this resource to productive activities, because at the moment this is a predictable liability that the nation is going to have. There is need for us to have approaches that coordinates government, civil society and other the private sector, the church and other players in society to ensure that children on the streets are not abused. Children on the street are taken away from there, and they shouldn't even have this tag. So we appeal to all the stakeholders involved to make sure that we take drastic steps in addressing this issue, because it keeps growing, and we could easily stop some of the vices taking place if this problem is sorted out.
For a long time now, various strategies, including force, have been effected to lead the streets of children, but without much success. What is it that the government is doing to make sure that the street is free of children living on it? We had a discussion with Mr. Nicholas Banda, the active director in the Child Development Department under the Ministry of Youth, Sport and Child Development.
As government, what we've done is that there are a number of initiatives that we've done. Like I told you, when parents are failing to take care of their children, we have special programs. For instance, we train these parents and then empower them with some funds so that they start some income generating activity. Because if the reason is that they cannot provide for their food, they cannot take them to school, we give them the means. We help them, train them and give them the means to be able to take care of these children. We've also, as a ministry, we have established what we call district child protection committees. These are committees of stakeholders that come together to look at the plight of children, but also with a specific focus on street children. We've got the child protection unit. This is a unit under the police that actually engage those children to ensure that their rights, even as they are on the street, are not violated, but also to persuade them to move away from the street and get into these various homes. So we have exercises where we pick them from the street and then take them to various homes, and then also some of them we are able to take them to the places where they came from, because you might find that you have found a child, it tells you I came from Rundazi. So with our system we are able to trace the parents and then find out if their parents have nothing that are doing, we'll link them to other programs that are able to help them to be able to sustain their children. But of course the other thing we do is that we have what we call street educators. These are partners that we over the years we have created partnership with. This resort, we can only take a child to an orphanage when we have searched that we have tried to trace and we are very certain that this child has got no relatives alive or parents, whereby we know that, okay, now this is the only alternative. But we would love to, that is actually, as government policy, it's a measure of last resort to put a child in an institution, whether it is transit center. The impact is a very big negative impact, because one, a child has to go to school. So if you have a child who is not going to school, their contribution when they grow up as adults, it's difficult for them. They won't have an avenue to contribute. The other thing is that you see, when children come on the street because they are being mistreated, and people are introducing them to various vices. For instance, you know that most of them now are addicted to these things like jenkem and the others. Look at in terms of mental and health issues, the cost on part of government, because now you have to treat the mental, they are not mentally stable, those children. It means now as a government you have to waste resources to treat them there. Look at issues of on the street, people take advantage of them, they abuse them sexually. It means that as government you now have to attend to those issues that come with abuse, mentally, physically, and psychologically. So we want to appeal to parents: stop abusing your children, and if you see your friend, the neighbor abusing a child, please report this to people, so that we create an environment that is safe for children. And for the children, I want to appeal to them: they should stop being on the street. It is not a very good environment for them, because they'll be subjected to a lot of abuse. Their rights will be violated on the street. As government, we're committed to creating an environment that is fit for children. So if the worst comes to the worst, we can take this child to a drop-in center. Of course, like I said, this should be the last resort. So we want to appeal to children: if anyone is violating their rights, please, they've got a right. We've got a hotline, a child helpline, 116, where they can, it's toll-free. They ring there, and there will be someone who will be able to help them.
Winning the fight against children living on the streets, it's not the government's mandate only, but even you and I can get on board to help out and be able to create an enabling environment for children. With whatsoever we have, that can be the first step in eradicating the vice on children living on the streets, which are dangerous for them. My name is Thomas Mwale. This has been the Dialogue Session. This program was produced and sound engineered by Thomas Mwale. Thank you for listening.